in a minute, but in the meantime, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, Warren. And my name's AJ Chabria. Next to me, as always, Craig Bell. What do you say, bud? Oh,
I'm looking online here.
Still a little more,
a
little more producing and machinations from the master next to me.
Ah, there we are. Yes, we are. Okay,
we are live
now. Let's hope this thing gets moving right here. And all right, James Scott Campbell, let's get this podcast started.
Friends, to another episode of the At the Net podcast, powered by Tex-Mex Productions. Working the soundboards in the back of the house are our producers, D-Mac and Dave the Brain. Time to say hello to your hosts, Craig Bell and AJ Chabria, as they're about to take us through 3 sets of tennis, talking life and all the news as it seems to them. Ladies and gentlemen, Craig Bell.
All right there, thanks to our At the Net podcast girl. That is Margot Carter for that Leka, another South African. We've got, this is our 3rd South African.
And your Afrikaans improves every time, Craig Bell. Well done.
My Oklahans or something like that. Whatever. Yeah, there we go.
Afrihoma over here.
Welcome, fans of the great game. You're listening to Season 1, Episode 83, AJ.
83. Very nice, buddy.
The At the Net podcast with... What's your name?
AJ Chabria, and next to me, Craig Bell, the man we call CB1.
We were talking the great game of tennis as it seems to us. Thanks also go out to our good amigos at Tex-Mex Productions. That would be Darian D-Mac McBrayer, and the Brain was on with us for a little bit. He actually signed off right there, but we always like Dave the Brain from back of the house who are on this. He was on the soundboards tonight. He worked with me for about an hour to get this thing going.
And if you check the pre-show banter on our Patreon and all that, you'll catch Dave's voice, but in the meantime, it's just the 3 of us.
He was helping move the dials and buttons to make us look like real people and sound like real people. Hopefully, we got the intro and everything was hunky-dory, peachy keen, all the good things like that. So, also be sure to check out our good work on Fireside, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, CastBox, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, and we're on YouTube tonight. Man, I ran out of breath on that.
Don't forget Twitch.
And Twitch, we're twitching sometimes. Maybe TikTok. Are you a TikTok?
I am so not a TikTok, but one day.
You look like a TikToker.
One day.
Yeah. Basically, all the important communication sites the kids find popular, right? All the woke kids, he lives in the woke neighborhood down in Dallas, down there where everybody's lit and just kind of all the woke folks hang out down the lower.
Dude, all I have to do is wear an At the Net podcast hat in my neighborhood, and people are like, all right. He's old, but he's got cred, yeah.
And if you're female, sorry, guys, we are biased on female voices. And if you'd like to read the intro like the Leka Margot Carter's, who speaks the Queen's English like our person just getting ready to start up here in just a couple of seconds, let us know. We always like to talk to female voices to do the intro and even in foreign languages, right?
That's right.
Well, speaking of Leka, our guest this evening is certainly Leka. And that would be Warren Master P. Pretorius, right? We're wearing the W just for Warren tonight, right?
It's the flying. I mean, people think it's a Weber State logo, which
it's not.
Which it is, but it's really the flying W for Warren tonight. Warren, welcome to the show tonight. How are you?
Thank you. Doing great. Honored to be with you guys.
Thank you.
It's a real pleasure to have you, around the show tonight with us at the Net, and we're looking forward to spending some quality time. I know you're up in the Park City area. Is that correct?
Yeah. Live up here at 7,000 feet. Mm-hmm. We're in Sprinter at the moment. So
Sprinter.
It's never spring. It's always just when you think you're getting to a nice, outdoorsy kind of vibe and all that, and then it snows again.
Do you have snow on the ground? Is there snow on the ground?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
we had snow. We probably had about, over the last week, we probably had more than 18 inches.
Oh.
And it was a lot of snow. And it's a heavy, wet snow.
Ooh, yeah.
It's not the dry, light powder I associate with Utah. This is the real deal, huh? Heavy.
Yeah, I think all the ski resorts are closing down now, but this is when we still have a lot of snow, and I think it's supposed to snow later this week again.
Oh.
So,
I'll be up there May 5th. My daughter graduates from Utah State, so we're going to be up there.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, might have to stop by and say hi. We'll have to go, get something to eat or something.
Awesome.
Always stop by.
City, for sure.
Yeah, have come over and
awesome.
see and say hello, and have to give you one of our. Well, we have some At the Net podcast hats. I should have one by then, so I'll bring that personally to you. How's that? So for being on the show.
That's lekker.
That's right.
That's lekker.
Is it lekker or lekka? I was trying to figure that out. Is it?
Well, lekker is, it's pronounced like phonetically like Lekka.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's spelled Lekker.
Right,
Lekker.
right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's Warren being a little American, where he goes rotic and pronounces the R, but back home he would just omit that R.
Yeah, no, I think they say it.
They do say it.
There's a lot of rolling of the R's.
Yeah.
Lekker.
Pretorius.
Yeah,
Afrikaans.
Pretorius. Yeah, that's how they.
So do you speak Afrikaans? Do you speak Afrikaans too?
Yeah, I do. I grew up. My dad was Afrikaans, so but I grew up English speaking. So so we went to English schools and all that, and the English schools didn't even play sport against Afrikaans schools. There were two different entities. So we but yeah, I had family on my dad's side were all Afrikaans. So we got to, I think we got to learn to speak Afrikaans very early on, because our parents, whenever they didn't want us to hear anything or know what they're saying, then they'd speak Afrikaans to one another. And that's the easiest way to teach your kid to become bilingual, is they'll figure it out really quickly, which we did. So,
Mom and Dad aren't saying something nice about whatever situation was going on. Someone's about to get something happening. It's coming down. All right. But so early on, you spoke Afrikaans, and do you use it ever today? Do you ever speak?
So I never ever spoke Afrikaans. We always spoke English, but we knew how. We did. It was very easy for us at school to take. We were required to take Afrikaans as a second language, and likewise, Afrikaans kids were required to take English as a second language. But we. Sure. So it was always a very easy A for us, because my dad was Afrikaans, and we could speak it even before we went to school. But now I still, I don't speak it. I don't get an opportunity to speak it, but your tongue gets a little bit slow. When I do go back home, I get some opportunity to speak it, but sometimes my brain, I can. My brain is quicker than my mouth, but I'll drive sometimes, and I'll have the radio on, and there'll be an Afrikaans station on, and I'll just be driving. I'll be listening to the news and that, and then I'll be going, I'm listening to Afrikaans. I can understand it. I can understand it and read it.
Sure.
Fine. That hasn't gone away at all.
Warren, we love that your brain is quicker than your mouth, because some people, the mouth is quicker than the brain, and those people get in trouble. So,
well, my wife would tell you that I probably go both sides.
That's very humble of you. Well, that is a good intro, Craig Bell, into our first set.
Yes.
Which is really all about Warren's background.
Yes.
Warren, tell us how you got started in the great game of tennis back in South Africa, and what part of the beautiful country that you're from.
So I grew up in Johannesburg.
Joburg,
which is,
big city.
Yeah, Joburg. It's pretty high altitude. So we got, like, for all of us, playing there, you learned to serve and volley really, really early. So I grew up in a sports family. I actually played more soccer until I was more soccer than tennis, probably up until I was about 15, 16. And then, but had always played tennis, and then what ended up happening in soccer is, like, everyone around me started shooting up, getting taller and stronger, and I stayed fairly short. Mm-hmm. So I made the switch to tennis and played, and played tournaments, and I took some lessons. I wasn't from a very I was from a middle class family, so I didn't have the opportunity to take lots of private lessons. But what I did do was, had a group of friends that we practiced. We played a lot of practice sets, rode our bikes up to courts, and that if I had a 30-minute lesson or an hour lesson, I'd arrive, an hour ahead, just to listen to the coach giving the lesson to the kid before me. And I'd stay after and go hit against the wall and all that. So I lapped it all up. And I love to compete. I love to play junior tournaments. That was the highlight, was playing tournaments. And So, and then I used to lose. I lost a ton. And I remember my dad, me going to my dad and saying, "Hey, can I please have a check for an entry fee for a junior tournament?" And him saying to me, "You know what? When are you ever going to win a match? Because I'm writing these checks, and it's kind of like you lose first round. It's like kind of an expensive sport that we've got going here." But I stuck with it, and I'm glad I did. We all had to go to the army. So you either had to go to the army when you were right out of high school, or you could go to university and then do it after. So I went right after high school when I was 17, and I was lucky enough to be good enough to play on one of the defense force that they had there. They had a very strong A team. I think Gary Miller was playing then. There was, Byron Talbot was in the same camp. Mm-hmm. There were some really, really good players. And so I was on the squad. I think I was on the B squad, but it was great because we got to play a lot of tennis, and play a lot of tennis, and we didn't have to go. All the guys, our army then at that stage, they were operational in Angola, and they were fighting against Cubans and Russians. So a lot of my friends, went operational, and in fact, my brother, he was operational for about 18 months, and they saw some horrendous, and a lot of them came back with PTSD and all of that. And here I was, it's 6 months of boot camp where you do basic training, then you do a more specialist training. But I worked in the office and played tennis, and was very, very lucky. And even after the army, I didn't know I was going to play tennis, because I still didn't think that I was good enough to play college tennis and that. And I went to Israel. I went backpacking and was staying in a kibbutz in Haifa. Mm-hmm. And it was there that I went to the Israeli Tennis Center, which was founded by a guy called Ian Froman, and he was a South African. Yeah. And in Haifa, there was another South African who was running the show up there. His name's Ronnie Sender. And anyway, Ronnie, I went up there from the kibbutz and all that, because they told me I had my rackets with me. And one thing led to another, and I started spending more time at the tennis center and hitting with just being a practice partner with Gilad Bloom, Shahab Perkis. Uh-huh. And there were a couple of people there, and I just hit and strung rackets and stayed in a youth hostel across the road there. And anyway, he told me, he said, "Why don't you play college tennis? Because you're good enough, you could get a scholarship." And I thought, well, I don't know how to do that. And it was back in the, before internet or anything. So you had to have the USTA had that book, that like college book that you flip through, and it's got all the list of all the colleges and all that. And anyway, he gave me some good information, and, I ended up spending a few more months in Europe and in Israel. And then I went back, and I, saved up enough money. And at that stage I had accepted first to come to Limestone College in Gaffney, South Carolina.
Yes.
But there were some other South Africans at University of Utah. There was the guy that I grew up with, and I played doubles with his brother, was a guy called Greg Menges. And Greg and a guy called Paul Lobben. And they played at University of Utah. And they had said, I think I called them or whatever, they had said that the coach at Weber State was looking for some players. He had a couple of spots open. So, we thought, well, it's an NCAA one school, and the travel schedule was amazing, because the coach then called us and said, "Hey, we're going to Hawaii, and we're going to do," and we did. We went to Vegas a ton. I'm sure Craig has just told you. Our coach loved Vegas, so we went to Vegas a ton. So when I looked at that schedule and all that, and the fact that there were Swedes and English guy on the team and all that, it was perfect. I didn't hesitate and came over, and that's when I ended up in Ogden, Utah, playing college tennis.
Warren, was that in the mid-'80s?
So. I actually arrived in the States January the 1st, 1986.
86.
Yeah, January 1, 86.
Had you ever been to the States before? Had you ever stepped foot on?
I hadn't. I'd been to, at that stage, I mean, my first overseas trip actually was after I got done with the army, was to go to Israel. Then I went to Israel, and then I went to London, and I went to France, and then decided to cut it short. I was with some friends who were backpacking, and they were going to spend like a couple of years, because we read that book. All of us were really into traveling, and there's that book by James Missioner called The Drifters. And it's about this group of kids who just want to travel, and they travel, but they all go different ways, and they have adventures. But what they say is that we're going to meet in Torremolinos on a certain date, and in Pamplona also for the running of the bulls.
Uh-huh.
So that was our idea, was it going to be, we're going to travel and we're going to go to running of the bulls and we're going to do all this stuff. But I never ended up staying with my friends who ended up doing all of that, because I decided then that I was going to come play college tennis, and went back home to earn enough money, just waiting tables, doing whatever I could to earn enough money to buy plane tickets to the States. Because again, I was on my own, I had to do everything on my own. So yeah, it was the best thing I ever did, and I ended up in Ogden, Utah. For me, it was a bit of a culture shock, because Johannesburg is about the size of Chicago. So I grew up in a city, and I remember taking a cab from Salt Lake Airport up to Ogden, and me driving and just seeing snow. I'd never seen as much. I'd seen snow maybe once in my life, but there was a freak snowstorm in Johannesburg. Uh-huh. I think it snowed an inch, and people were getting killed. Cars were going off the side of it. People couldn't handle it. But I arrived in January, and there was a lot of snow, and the mountains were spectacular. And I took this cab ride up, and I just couldn't believe it. But I didn't see any houses or anything. It was just, you're just driving up, through Bountiful and Kaysville and all the way up to Ogden. And I just saw lots of, cows standing freezing their asses off in the fields of it. And I said to the cab driver, I said, how much further is it before we get to Ogden? And he goes, this is it. And I was going, oh my God, it's like, what is going to happen here? But it turned out great. I think Ogden was great. Ended up meeting all the guys, and the rest is history. And that's how I ended up in Utah. And I love Utah. Utah's a fantastic state.
Oh yeah.
It's really diverse. I know that Warren, I saw him on Instagram, and you were down in southern Utah. Were you down at Zion's? You were down there hanging out, or Moab, or where were you when you were taking those pictures?
Yeah, so my wife and I love the state. We love hiking. Mm-hmm. So we get out to we do a lot. So I don't do as much biking, as a lot of people do, and also I don't do as much skiing as a lot of people do. I snowboard, but again, not a lot. So we do get out, but what we do a lot of is hiking, mm-hmm. and we have an airstream, so which we got right before the pandemic hit, and since the pandemic hit, we've been on 14 trips.
Tremendous,
and some of them pretty epic. And one of the areas of the country that we absolutely love is down in southern Utah, the whole area around Capitol Reef, Boulder, Utah. It's Grand Staircase Escalante, mm-hmm. Where all the arches are and all of that, the slot canyons. And so we go down there and go do some hikes. And so we love it down there. And we'll probably make, 3 or 4 trips now coming up. In fact, we got back a week ago, and we'll go again week after next, down to Capitol Reef, to a place called Torrey, Utah, mm-hmm, and mm-hmm. Kanab, that whole area, Boulder. It's fantastic, just amazing country and hiking, and favorite place of ours.
And it looks totally different than where you're sitting right now. It's amazing how you get the red sandstone, and you just get these unbelievable views. It looks like the desert, and then you come, 300 miles? Is it 300 miles down there?
Yeah, it's about a 4 to 5 hour drive, and it's a nice, easy drive. It's a beautiful drive also.
You got the Airstream, and you got it on the back, and you're just pulling it along.
Truck going. Yeah, I hand out arm out the window,
Yep.
cruising down. Yeah.
So hopefully you stop a few times.
In the back.
Our coach was notorious for never stopping. So either you would dry yourself out. The night before, I'd never drank anything because I learned early on he did not ever stop. There was no pit stop.
So much for staying hydrated, like a good athlete should, right?
There was no hydration stops. Let's put it that way.
It was the same with us.
Yeah.
I remember Keith. He wanted to get to Vegas very quickly.
Oh yeah, yes, and I'm sure the same thing. One of the great stories that I'm sure that Warren, their team did. The Saturday night there was no curfew, so that meant we just packed our bags by the side and then walked in at about 7 a.m. on Sunday.
Stay out all night,
and then we'd sleep on the van on the way back.
College tennis, ladies and gentlemen, catch it. Come on over.
Yeah, that was the quietest van ride back for about 8 hours that the coach ever
sleep.
Yeah, no, it was great. And I'm sure that you all enjoyed your time as much. I just barely missed him by a couple of years. And they had some really good teams that I don't think you all ever lost the Big Sky Conference, if I recall. Is that correct?
We won it every year that I was there because of me.
All right, Warren.
That's right.
We had some good players. While I was there, Jonas Erlin.
Mm-hmm.
He's done in Tucson now. He was great. Yes, I watched. I used to watch his guys. He was just a stoic Swede, and he is amazing. And then there were a couple of other Swedes. I think there was a guy that I played doubles with, Nicholas Vandershoot, and he was really good also. He played number 3 or number 4, but he probably should have played number 2. And he played number 4 and never ever lost. He was like the anchor on the team.
Rock solid at the bottom, yeah.
When Jonas left, then Lindsay Lawston played for a couple of years, and he was very good. He was at a whole different level. He went on he redshirted 1 year when he had knee surgery, and then he came back and played at University of Utah. And I think he went to NCAAs every single year that he played college tennis. I think even when he was a freshman. So he was very, very good. And I was also lucky. I got to play a little bit of doubles with him. They had that the Rolex tournaments and the ITCA.
Yeah, back then it was ITCA. Yeah.
ITCA, yeah. And I got to play with him a couple of times. But yeah, he was really good. A couple of really good teams, good guys also, because I think everyone on the team got together. It was like a fraternity. I think it was the same with you, Craig.
Yep.
You had some great guys. I mean, you were with Kay Barney.
Yep.
You were there with Barry Nissenbaum.
Yep. Kevin Kipling was right before us, but
Kevin was before you.
Yeah, he used to hang around coming in from Salt Lake City. Yeah, it was a really great bond. We still text each other. Rod Horton, that's around.
Yeah.
Hot Rod, Matt Iondolo. It was a fun group to be around, and it was a good time to be in the Harvard of Utah, I would call it. Those who couldn't get into Weber had to go to University of Utah, BYU. That's what I tell all my friends down here. There's a lot of them. I like to needle them just a little bit, just to kind of say, Weber State, we're the Harvard of Utah. So,
speaking of Harvard, Warren, as a parent, we'll get back to second set and all that. We'll go to the second set, but you are the parent to some kids who went to places like Harvard and all that. Yeah. How have you done it, man?
Yeah, well, I cannot claim that they're my genes, okay? Because I was lucky enough to inherit two wonderful stepkids when they were really young.
Awesome.
So they lived with us full time. But there's Jonathan, and he was he went to USC and he graduated there. He went down, and he actually went as a vocalist. He was a classically trained singer, and he got into their School of Performing Arts. And he was, when he went in, he was a 3-octave baritone, which you can ask me what that is, and I still don't know. Okay, all I know is that he was the most nervous I've ever been. More than any tennis match I've ever played was watching him, sing. Even at especially at a talent show one day that he did at high school, and he's singing opera. He's singing Josh Groban. I was telling him, going, dude, this is a defining moment. It's like you either it's going to ruin the rest of your high school because he was a sophomore,
He's young,
or it's going to make you. And it made him. I mean, he was very, very good. But he graduated down there, and he still lives in LA. And then our daughter, Alexandra, she went to Harvard. She was actually the first kid, but all of them just went to public schools here in Park City, which is the school system here is fantastic. And and she went to Harvard and got a degree there, and then decided she was going to go to medical school. And she came back to Utah, went to University of Utah, because their women's health program is one of the top 10 in the country.
Oh, really?
And she got her medical degree, and then took her residency, which is now just entering her 4th year. She's a resident at Albert Einstein Montefiore in New York. Mm-hmm. So she's in the Bronx, and so she stays up there, and then she's going to do a fellowship, and she's looking at she's got a couple of options, I think, either to come back out west to Stanford, or to stay out there, and she's interested in Columbia. So she'll do, I think it's a year or 2 more. It's a long haul. She'll be 32 when she gets done with all of her training. But yeah, we were very proud of her. With all the kids, all kids are different. What motivates one it's totally different for the other. I've got my son Logan, who is he's 25. And he graduated at the U, and he also did 2 years a design course at Slick at the same time. He did an interesting program. He was probably 5.5, almost 6 years. He did University of Utah. He did a Chinese minor and an international relations major, and then he did 2 years of clothing design at Slick. But his big thing is he teaches yoga. So that's what he does now. He did some advanced yoga courses. So I've got 3 kids, and they're all totally different.
Wow.
And they, like I say, what motivated one didn't motivate the other at all. But yeah, we're blessed, and we actually, our oldest son is getting married next weekend. So we're going down to LA.
Oh,
and that's sort of the rules in place. No more than 25 people at a wedding in California. So we do that next week, and then our daughter gets married in Park City in September.
What a year for the Pretorius clan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of them, all of this was put off. It was supposed to be that our son got married a year ago, but they put it off. So, yeah, it's a big year. It's an expensive year.
Right.
You better get on those analytics. Come on, Warren.
Well, congrats. And all this success is a great transition into our second set, where we get to talk about your current project and your future projects. And maybe we can even touch on some of the future of our great sport, tennis. Warren, tell us about being this Chief Executive Officer of Tennis Analytics, and tell us how you got into that field.
Well, the title is just because there's no other titles around. Okay, when you start a business, it's like you're just everything. You're CEO, you're treasurer, you're the finance officer, you're the legal department, you're everything.
Your operations, you're everything.
Yeah. So I taught tennis for a long time. I was the director of tennis I was the head pro at Ogden Athletic Club, because a guy that Craig knows quite well, Brad Lowe, an amazing guy also. He was the head pro, and he decided to go into his own business. So he was leaving, and I had been teaching there and got offered the head pro job there. And I was it was pretty young then. So I was actually starting my MBA at off campus at Weber State, but it was through Utah State. And I just started that, but then I got offered that job, and I decided that I would take the job, and I did. And I did that for a couple of years, and then I ended up the job in Park City opened up, so I applied, and I think I interviewed pretty well, only because I didn't feel like any pressure to get the job. If I didn't get it, it wasn't a big deal, and and I got the job, and I think that was the best thing that ever happened, because it was I spent about almost 15 years as the director of tennis there, and had an amazing group of guys teaching at the club, a great program. I taught the high school team. It was really good experience, and going in that yellow school bus to all these obscure places and playing. It's just that high school tennis vibe that we've all done. It was really good, and we won some championships, and anyway, I ended up. I also taught the U.S. ski team. So the U.S. ski team is based in Park City, but a lot of the skiers play tennis, and there was like Lindsey Vonn, Bodie Miller. There's a guy called Eric Schlopey, and there's also and then Ted Ligety.
Ligety, yeah.
And they were all kids then, and there were a bunch of others, and they all play tennis. And I used to have one of those video, those video contraptions, JVC, and it was this yellow box. I don't know if you guys ever saw them. You'd push it out, it had a car battery in the bottom, and then at the top it had like a little pop-up, and it was a black and white monitor.
Yes.
And then it had an arm with a camera on the side, just a mini DV camera, a Sony camcorder. And what you would do is you'd film, and then you'd be able to play it back through the VCR onto that little monitor.
Yeah.
And so I used to love that because I think I'm a visual learner, and I took it out. So I always showed the kids what they were doing in that. And one of the kids on the ski team said to me, "Why don't you use Dartfish?" And I was going, "Dart what?"
Yeah, what is it?
So anyway, they said, "Oh, it's a software or whatever." So I did some investigating, and I found that the rep was in Park City also, and I set up an appointment, and he tried to show me the software. The problem was that he didn't really know the software himself, but he could tell me what it could do. So I was intrigued, because one of the things that they said they could do was this instant capture and playback. And instant capture and playback in motor learning, there's this phenomenon called the Carpenter Effect, where if you do something, say you hit an ace, okay, you hit a fantastic serve, while you're walking to the back fence to pick up a ball, you can still feel the sensation. It still lingers. It's a lingering effect. It's kind of like Alka-Seltzer in water. That is, it fizzes really strongly and then it dissipates.
All right.
If you play golf, if you hit a really good golf shot, then you hit it and you walk back to the cart, you can feel the shot that you just hit. So why this is intriguing to me is because the two dominant learning processes are visual and kinesthetic. Mm-hmm. So what you're doing then is you can feel what you see. So not only did I have that, if you hit a really good shot, are you feeling it? Your neurons keep firing, okay? And it's and anyway, if you could watch that serve within 15 to 20 seconds, you can feel what you see. It's very powerful. And I ended up buying Dartfish software. It was much more expensive then than it is now that. And I was actually the first tennis client that Dartfish had. And I started using it, but there was lots of bugs in the software. And the rep couldn't help me out. And so what I ended up doing was calling Dartfish. And, I was not very happy because I spent a lot of money, my own money, and it wasn't working. And I called the Dartfish office in Atlanta, and I said, a lady picked up the phone and said, "Hey, this is Lindsay, how can I help you?" And I said, I'm having problems with the software, and, I want a refund because it doesn't work like it was promised. And they told me, she said, "Oh, well, you should have you talk to your rep." And I said, "Yeah, I've talked to my rep. He's not helping at all. He's kind of useless." So because he hasn't used the software. I said, "I know how to use the software better than he does." And she said, "Oh, well, let me have you talk to Victor." And so Victor is Victor Bergonzoli. He's one of the founders of Dartfish. So he picks up the phone and he says, hey, this is Victor. And I said, hey, Victor, you sound like a really nice guy, but I don't want to talk to you either. I want to talk to your boss. Yeah. And he says, well, I am the boss. And what happened was he then told me, I mean, I was pretty angry and I just wanted, I wanted things made right. And he told me, he said, it's because of customers like you that the product is going to get better. And what he did, he said, here's my number. He says, I'll help you out and we'll make it work. And I mean, that diffused everything. All of a sudden I'm going like, wow, I mean, that's, it's more than I asked for. So I became very good friends with him. And to cut a long story short is that they ended up offering me a job with Dartfish. And my first territory, even though I lived in Utah, was New England. So it was largely Massachusetts because of all the colleges there. And I'd fly out once a month and I'd just go and visit lots of colleges and also physical therapy. And it was at the same time that you've all seen that movie Moneyball.
Yes.
And so the Oakland A's and Billy Bean were using the big thing is not just in getting stats. The big thing is indexing stats and indexing to video, because not only do you want to have the stats, but you want to quickly pull it up and go and look at
accessible,
exactly what that stat is. It adds context to stats. And they were using Dartfish, and they were using something else also, but Dartfish was Dartfish tagging module. So there are two areas of video analysis. There's technical analysis, working on a player's stroke and all that, very important. But the other part of it is tagging or notational analysis. Okay, and anyway, I ended up learning about tagging and working a lot in Major League Baseball because that's where it's still even now. I mean, they take analytics to a whole different level. So I ended up, learning the software and then going out to train people, train teams, and also in NFL, NBA, and also just at colleges. And I ended up at the same time, I still was very interested in tennis, and I kept thinking, well, there's this Moneyball model in tennis. It was also around then that I met Craig. And Craig was thinking about the same time. So we actually very early on, we had some joint projects going, because we also in the very early days of Dartfish TV, which they had this thing called Dartfish.net, which was the earliest version of Dartfish TV. So why that was powerful, and Craig and I were very interested in this, is because yes, you can index video, okay, but the problem is that when you've got the stats and you've got the video, it's still on your computer. It's very local, and then you've got to take your computer around to show people. But in the early days of it wasn't early days of internet, but it was when internet was becoming more mainstream. This Dartfish net was intriguing to both of us. And that's when I started doing some projects with Craig in the early days.
Folks at home, we're talking about Craig O'Shaughnessy, Brain Game Tennis. And was this in the late 90s or early 2000s when Craig O'Shaughnessy was here in Dallas developing Brain Game Tennis and using Dartfish extensively?
Yeah, it was in 2000. It was I don't know exactly when it was, but probably around 2005.
Makes sense. Early 2000s, yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly not to be confused with CB1 Craig Bell, because he has no technical expertise. So this is always fascinating, because I remember talking to Warren a few times over the years. He's come to Dallas, and I remember going, wow, that is really fascinating stuff. I knew there had to be somebody out there eventually was going to do exactly what you were doing. And,
the idea of indexing and tagging as a means to access and analyze the data that is evident in everybody's game, not just pro athletes, right?
Oh yeah. So where that led was from Dartfish, I started getting interest from people who said, "Hey, it's great. I buy the software and that, but I don't want to buy the software. I don't have time to do this. I'm a coach. I want to be out with my player. Do you know somebody who can help with basically tagging matches and all that?" So I said, "I can help you." So I ended up getting a couple of college kids, and they ended up, tagging, and it was always organic growth. It was never ever like, oh, we're going to go out and we're going to get a raise money and we're going to go big and all that. And I started small, and I signed a contract with Novak. I think it was in 2013. Signed a contract with him and worked with Dusan Vemic, and also with Marion Vida. But I signed up and I worked with him early days of tagging. He was probably one of the early adopters with analytics. And I worked with him up until when Boris Becker became his coach. And then Boris Becker, it's like this happens. Craig has seen it also. Is that
with Goran, you're right.
When a new coach comes in, it's out with the old, in with the new. The coach. I was told with when BB came in that he doesn't. He does his own way of doing analytics. He's been around the game for so long. He doesn't need outside help. And we're just going, okay. It's like there's nothing I can do. At the same time, I developed a college model, and so I was working with a few teams, and they were sending the college model is a whole different beast, because you think a college team is sending, if they are sending you video, it's for 6 singles and 3 doubles. That's like 12 hours of video.
That's a lot of content. Yeah. 2
matches a week. Okay. So anyway, so we developed that, and slowly built the staffing and all of that, and we got up in 2019. We were working with 45 college teams. That obviously at the moment now it's about just over half. I'm working with about 60% of that at the moment, but I think that in 2022 that'll pick up again. So cornerstone of my business. So I formed Tennis Analytics and then moved away from full-time with Dartfish. I still very, very close with Dartfish. I still work with, we've developed we co-developed some products, which is very exciting. And I work with Dartfish. I still sit in on all their staff calls, their weekly calls, their development calls, and all that. So I still feel as if I'm still got all the rights and all of that as an employee, but I'm just a consultant with them. But on Tennis Analytics, then we have, I think altogether at the moment there's about a dozen staff people, and we chart a lot of matches. And, we were charting with, everything from the 12s, 14s, 16s, 18s. We go to events, and I sponsor Junior Orange Bowl. I go to Orange Bowl. We just got back from Easter Bowl.
Yeah.
We do all the Canadians because I have a very close relationship with Tennis Canada, as I do with the USTA, working with guys like Dave Ramos and, Martin Blackman,
yes.
Dave Ramos, and with Jeff Russell. I've worked with them for a long time. And so the cornerstones of my business are really the USTA is my biggest client, and then the college teams, and then the events, the junior events. But what's nice about that is I'm getting a cross-section of data. And it was at that point that I started working with Craig O'Shaughnessy. I mean, with us just saying, hey, you know what, he's doing some stuff with the elite pros. Let's start doing some collaborative work. And Craig is great at he's great at presentations. I mean, he's amazing, and he interprets data very, very well. You'll look at data and you'll ask questions that frankly I don't ask. I think my talent has been more in setting up the systems. I'm more interested in setting up the efficiencies in the workflow, and how do you get 200 matches tagged and delivered, and how do you set up quality control measures, how do you get the staff trained, how do you do all of that. So I'm more like the engine, if you will. But I do still also do the interpretation. Like I worked with I worked with Bianca
Andreescu, the Canadian
Andreescu, yeah. From when she was younger, and I did some work with Denis Shapovalov, and then with Felix Auger-Aliassime. I know their coaches really, really well. And then I also at Wimbledon in 2019, I did some work I went on a project with Milos, which is great also. So a lot of the Canadians, and then still I do some work with players on on tour a year, just boutique kind of stuff. Like I did some stuff with Brandon Nakashima.
Oh yeah, from San Diego, remarkable young American player, Brandon.
Yeah, I did some stuff with him, and then there's there are a couple of other players, but again, I think that that's Craig's business model. He's working with a bunch of players. I think we've agreed that that it's better for him and me to support him on that area, and then we're really again the engine, and all of the analytics that Craig does now for his players. We do it. We took his panel. He had a panel, and I worked at it. We added a couple of things. It was a joint project, and then did all the reports. Mm-hmm. When you talk about like the power in indexing, then is also in data visualization. So we got into the whole thing with data visualization tools like there's Power BI, and you've heard of. We use Click and Power BI, and really all that does is it sits on top of your database. On top of your server, but you create these dashboards. I see. So that you create logical dashboards. Like in tennis, we've got all this data. We've got like millions of points and all that. And if you just look at the data, it doesn't make sense. But with this data visualization tool, it allows you to sort of segment, pull out the data that's related to the serve, say, or to the return and all that, and then then allows the end user, like a coach, to do their own drill down within the serve.
Can you drill down serves and second serves, returning first serves and second serves?
Yeah, so you could drill down, and the power in the data. I think that for all of us, all of us have done charting. I mean, you go sit at the side of the court and you chart, whether you're using an app or whether you're using a piece of paper. The problem with doing it that way is that you start like viewing matches in isolation, and there's a danger in that because you get a very skewed view of what is happening, because a player may play great on that one day and the stats look fantastic, and then they play against somebody and they lose and they play badly, and then you look at the stats there. Well, we actually know now is that you probably need about 1,000 points.
Really? 1,000
competitive points. That's about 8 matches, because a match is about 125 points.
Makes sense.
So we say that we look for, and also it doesn't help if you send me 1,000 points and of matches that you win 6-0, 6-1, 6-2, 6-2. It's not going to be good. You need a mixture, So we say, around about 6-3, 6-2, 6-3, 6-3. That's a competitive, it starts getting competitive. So that kind of data then, if you have 8 matches and you've won 3 and lost 3, that's ideal. Then what we do then is we aggregate the data. So then we can tell you your serve percentage, AJ, is 65%. And it may have been 50% in one match and 80% in another. I
see. But
now you're getting a true sense of what you do well or badly. And then the power in all of this now is that you benchmark everything, because now we've got a database, and we've got a database, and we've got Craig and I just put out that product, with 1 million points in college tennis. So just in college tennis, we've got 1 million points, but in pro tennis, I've got even more, and it's also at the challenger level. And then what about junior tennis? We've got all of that. So when you benchmark, I can go to a coach and their kid can come in and play a couple of matches, and we can say, if you're above the line, below the line, or on the line, but based on performance. Because the problem we have in tennis is that we're outcome oriented. How do you tell if a kid's doing well? He's judged by his wins and losses.
His UTR.
He won a match, great. Okay, he's ranking. Okay, and his UTR ranking, his sectional ranking, his national ranking, and his wins and losses. And so the assumption then is saying that, well, if you lose a match and your rating drops, that your game is getting worse. And we know that's not the case. So what analytics does is it adds the performance element. So you start like tracking a player's progression using performance data. So you can say, you lost that game or that match, but you were playing against a kid, a UTR, higher than yours or better than yours, and you actually got an A grade based on your performance, but you lost the match. So that's very powerful to me, and I'm very interested in that. Is being able to track a player over a period of time, or even a team over a period of time. And we do, like I just did I think for all of us in analytics, it was always with, let's do it. It's only for the pros. You just do it for the top players, top juniors, and all that. Well, I did a pilot study. I suggested a pilot to the USTA to do it with ladies 3-5 4-0s.
Interesting. This is one of our questions. Yeah.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, first of all, we never call them recreational players. Okay. As you know, is that there are many ladies, on the ladies 3-5 team that are more serious about tennis than you and I have ever been.
Absolutely. They see themselves as, and they should, as high-performance players, as not recreational players, but as competitive players.
Yeah, which is why down at the tennis congress, with PJ Simmons, which is we love the guy to death. I mean, that is probably one of the top tennis conferences in the world. I mean, that all of us have
that's right.
been there.
Yeah, you and I met there a year or two ago, year and a half ago. Yeah.
Yeah, in the bar.
Yeah, that's right.
We are analyzing
court.
beers, weren't you? Or is that at the bar?
So he doesn't refer to players there as recreational players or whatever.
Not at all.
Everyone's referred to as athletes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even Jim Lair, when he has the Performance Institute, was calling them corporate athletes.
Corporate athletes.
When he was working with business people and all that. So anyway, I did a very successful pilot project with the USTA, and then I did another one, and unfortunately the timing was horrible. It was in early March 2020.
Right,
I did
about
it
a week.
Lifetime Tennis. I did it with Lifetime Tennis, and flew in there, and we did a workshop. There were still players who came, and there was still this buzz now about COVID and all that. And so I drove in. Things were pretty normal. Went in. We did the workshop, and when I drove out, it was like The Walking Dead. The movie where everything, the highways were just like
zombie
empty,
kind of a zombie dystopian movie.
Yeah.
You were in.
So I ended up, we did that, and it was very interesting because players lapped it up. Players loved it. I did one. I actually did one yesterday again.
Yeah.
I did I started looking into doing these events where at the club at the Park City Municipal and Recreation Facility. We did a 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, 3 5s in the morning session, 4 O's, 4 5s in the afternoon session.
Good.
They come out and they just play matches.
Yeah.
And we film them. And we can chart them, and we filled both workshops up. People want this stuff; they don't get it anywhere.
They don't.
Our players, our juniors, and our adults just become very good lesson takers because they not get the exam that we take in tennis is playing a match, is competing, but nobody ever tells you how well you did or how badly you did. They just tell you whether you win or lose. So this performance type data, makes total sense because now we're saying we sort of grading them, and then as Craig and I have been talking to all these presentations about is saying you get to plan the practice court.
Yes,
data helps a coach and a player to understand what they do well, and also what they do badly, and that's what they go out and practice.
And practicing or bringing the data to the practice court, it helps you practice with more purpose, more realistic goals or realistic patterns. And I feel like this whole idea of taking some emotion out of it and taking the subjectivity out of it has helped a lot of players go from this level to the top level. Have you experienced that?
Oh, yeah. For sure, because it's measurable now. You know, it's before no one was measuring. You know, it's the old adage is if you're not measuring, you're guessing.
You're guessing.
The coach is just guessing. You know, there's that study that was done in Australia. It was called notational analysis in sport, and these guys did a 3-year study in different sports, tennis being one of them, but it was also cricket and soccer and all that. And they found that the coach, a coach sitting next to the court or next to the field, he's watching the game. He was actually less than 45% correct in his post-match assessment as to why his team won or lost.
Really?
Yeah, because we as humans, we tend to fixate on highlights.
Yeah.
You know, and you're biased. Okay, so what will happen is that I'm working with a kid, and I know we've been working really hard on a second serve and all that, and I go out and I see a double faulting. I start thinking, oh, it's a second serve again. We need to go work on a second serve. But tennis, there are so many things happening that contribute to the wins or losses. It's kind of like soccer.
Yeah.
You know, the MVP is always the guy who scores the most goals. But the true MVP is actually the guy who sets up the goals. Because there's a guy 3 or 4 balls away that's orchestrated all of that, and he's the true MVP. But without charting and actually, you know, breaking down the game, you don't know who that guy, you know, 3 or 4 passes ago was. So anyway, so I think that what has happened now is that yes, players get to understand at least there's some focus. This is what I need to go out and work on, and then we can measure it again. We don't have to chart every single match that a player plays. You can do it, but you want to do it on a regular basis. It's just like taking a quiz. You learn something, learn some theory, take a quiz. Learn some theory, take a quiz.
Yeah.
Go back and work on the things that you don't understand or do well. And that's where I think analytics, it doesn't matter what your level is. It doesn't matter whether you're a 3-0 player or a 3-5 player. It's the same thing applies. It speeds up your improvement. And anyone who's coming to a 3-5 clinic, they're coming there because they want to get better.
Of course.
It's fun. Tennis is fun when you get better. Any sport is fun when you get better. So, and then the other thing is when you start understanding some of the, there's some universal truths that have come out. Okay. It doesn't matter what your level is. There's some universal truths about certain aspects in our sport. And when you understand that, then you know you should be how much time you should be spending working on those areas. Like you've heard Craig, Craig talk about rally lengths.
Yes.
Well, it's a universal truth that the majority of points, doesn't matter whether you're girls 12 playing on clay, the biggest segment of rally lengths, it ends within 4 shots. Okay, so. That doesn't mean, and again, everyone construes it as saying that you only practice the first 4 shots, don't practice anything else. Obviously, that's not possible, because there are some 15 or 20 shot rallies. It may happen in the tiebreaker of the 3rd set. So every point is important, but the majority of points you play are going to be 4 shots, and you're always going to hit a serve and a return.
Yeah.
And we still see it now. It's like I was at the club yesterday. I saw a guy giving a private lesson, and the serves are and sort of an afterthought at the end of the lesson. Hey, let's just go grab it. Let's go hit a few serves. Yeah. And then they stand there, they're just hitting out of the basket and hitting 20 serves. And you go, it's not the same tempo. You're not doing that. It's like me going to the driving range and saying, pulling out a bucket of balls and hitting, shank the first 6, and then I hit a good one, and I think, wow, my drive's looking good today. But it's not, okay, because I'm not going to hit 6 drives in a row. I don't get 6 opportunities. You get 1. And it's like serves. It's like they should be practicing with that same tempo. Return of serve is the most under-practiced and probably the most important shot. But kids are not practicing it. And unfortunately, when I do travel, because I travel quite a lot, and I go to some clubs, I go to some academies, and I won't mention names.
Yeah,
and, you want to tell the kid on the side, I want to go say, I can give you one quick tip, and it'll help your game immensely. Would you like to hear it? And they say yes. I say, put your racket in your bag and run.
Run.
Because you're not going to get any better here. So, but it's.
I'm glad you didn't mention names there. That's funny.
I saw Craig duck out over there.
No, I was answering a question.
Speaking
here,
of which, Warren, I want to take a quick break within our second set before the end of the second set and get to a few viewer questions. This is kind of fun going back to the skiing aspect. I love Yannick Sinner, who came from skiing. Novak Djokovic came from skiing and obviously is an early adopter of analytics with people like O'Shaughnessy and you, Warren. Tell us a little bit about some of those skiers that you worked with, Ted Ligety, Lindsey Vonn, Bodie Miller. Who were the best tennis players among those skiers, and how does that translate into our sport?
They were all good players.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Bodie Miller was the best player.
He's the one who had a tennis background back in Vermont, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he did, and I think they still do. I think he's still involved. I think his parents, had a camp in their backyard or whatever. But he was very, very heavily involved. So he was a good player, legitimate player. But again, it's like any sport is that you need to spend a lot of time to get really, really good. And he's a fan. I think he's probably a 5-0 player.
5-0, not bad.
Very accomplished. Yeah, very good player, but not pro level. I think he tried to play one year, played in those lead up tournaments to the U.S. Open, those qualifying events that they had. And he played. He was a good player, but you've got to spend a lot of time. It's like Novak. I mean, he's probably a really good skier, but he's a 5-0 skier.
Yes, right. Which is
not going to be a professional skier.
A big difference between 5-0 and the pro. Yeah. Warren, let's get to the last bit of the second set before we get to Craig Bell's hilarious third set. We want to talk a little bit. We want to ask you a little bit about. We talked about your current projects, but let's talk about not just your future projects, but as you see it, the future in our industry, and maybe you could talk about some of the other companies or products out there that might be capitalizing on this trend to embrace analytics more. What's your perspective on that?
Well, I don't want to talk about any competitors.
I understand.
No. I'm really good friends with the guys at PlaySight.
PlaySight, yes.
Early on when PlaySight came out, it was in the early days of tennis analytics, and I actually flew to Israel.
You did,
and I had stock options in PlaySight. I was introduced through a really. I was introduced by Gordon Euling.
Euling, yeah.
Gordon Euling is out of New Jersey,
right?
Tenafly, great guy. He was actually a guy where Novak is a really good friend, stays at his house during the Open, and that's how I actually got introduced to Novak also.
I see, through Gordon.
Gordon had invested very early on in PlaySight and wanted me to be involved, and I went to Israel and I saw it, but their model was a little bit different from what tennis analytics was. I mean, we are, it's a much more down and dirty analytics.
I see.
PlaySight, as a couple of the other companies, like there's another company called Mojo, which is really good. They have multiple cameras on the court, and they auto tag. So they use, they'll say it's sort of bordering on AI, and they can figure out what is going on, but it's not very accurate.
I see.
And so I when I say it's not very accurate, it's not as accurate still as what it is to do manual tagging. But with the future of our sport is definitely going to be this AI model with a single camera. So we're busy working with a couple of projects at the moment with some companies that we give them the underlying data to build the AI model. Yeah. And that would be the ideal scenario would be to put up a single camera, and obviously it's calibrated. On tennis, it's pretty easy because every tennis court is the same size. So they put up a camera, and then you can track exactly what is happening. And there is a model at the moment that can track, beginning of point, end of point, forehands and backhands. The problem is the accuracy on the far side of the court.
I see.
Sometimes the net tape will get in the way. So it always goes back that the most accurate way of doing that is to have multiple cameras. And that presents a problem because it becomes more expensive.
Makes
You've got
sense,
to then
double.
go and have the camera, the cameras in there and that. So when I started Tennis Analytics, I thought that we would already by now be working on something that is automated tagging, but we're not yet. But that is the way of the future. There are some companies. Swing Vision is one of them that puts up. You put up your iPhone on the back and that. But again, it always boils down to the quality of the data. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, and we're not perfect, but we run, even though it's manual, we're doing quality control checks, data checks, and across 3 or 4 different levels. For the most part, we're pretty accurate. We're not saying we're not 100%. I don't think anyone is 100%, but we're definitely pushing the high 90s on accuracy. And then if we're doing something at a higher level, like we're doing a pro match, then the scrutiny on a pro's match is a lot higher. But it's never going to be perfect. Nor is it going to be perfect with AI. But that is the way of the future. And I think that the other way is that when I started, there were maybe out of the top 100, maybe there were 3 or 4 players that were using any form of analytics on a regular basis. Now I think that there's probably only 4 players in the top 100
who
that
aren't
not
using it, right? Yeah.
So I think that there's been a big switch, and you're starting to see even players now demanding that they have the analytics. You're seeing a lot of colleges for a recruiting tool. They're going, they must have some form of analytics. So that's encouraging, because I think that it's good for the sport. If people start using data, I mean, other sports do. It's a little bit more challenging in tennis, but because you've got, even in a high school match, you've got 6 courts going at the same time. It's not like you have 22 players playing on a soccer field. You've got 12 players playing on 6 courts. Wow. So the challenges are there, but still, it's and I hear that often. A coach says, "Oh, well, we cannot do it because we've got 6 courts going and all of that. So it's just, I need 6 GoPro cameras. I need this, I need that." And you go like, why don't you just start with 1 GoPro and just film 1 match? That's the way to get started with it. But I think analytics is going to play a big part of the future. I think that the older coaches, starting to older coaches like Craig,
hey,
thank you.
O'Shaughnessy, like, not Craig Bell.
Yeah, well, they're on their way out, and the younger guys are tech savvy, and they're not intimidated by technology.
Well, Warren, thank you for that small picture as well as the huge picture view of what you do and what we can all learn from it as tennis fans and coaches. I want to, if we could, transition into our third set. But before we do, Warren, where and how can people get a hold of your services? Is it Tennis Analytics? Very simple, the website?
Tennisanalytics.net.
Easy.
There's information, and we will also launch this thing on the website is Stat of the Week.
Yes, that's the new.
We're doing a very simple Stat of the Week. It's meant to be read in like 25 seconds. So it's got a Stat of the Week, some information, and then a great photo of a player.
It sounds It sounds almost like Sorry, it sounds almost like an Instagram post where it's easily digested and it's something everybody can follow once a week at your site.
Yeah, they can either go to the site or they can register, and then we'll send it to them every week. And but at least if you go to the blog post at the end, you'll see some case studies that we've done. And there's no charge or anything like that. But I think that it could be very interesting, because we also have coaches will give us feedback on it and go like, "Oh, wait, what about this? What about that?"
Yeah.
Or I think that's wrong. Or I think that's, maybe you're looking at the stats wrong. And so there's a dialogue going over there. Tennisanalytics.net. And there's information there about what we do.
And those coaches making those comments are probably what you were to Dartfish in the old days, the favorite customer that makes us better.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well done. Well, Craig Bell, who are we rolling with? Who's our sponsor of the third set here, my man?
Tennis Analytics. .net. Yeah, tennisanalytics.net. Yeah, be sure if you need any analytics. I always tried to tell everybody I was the MVP of our doubles team, but no one ever believed me. So I needed to get data and then be able to prove my theory that when I was playing doubles with people.
Thing is, when Craig says that, he is 45% wrong.
Oh, right.
Yes. Good.
Yeah, right. No, actually, Master Systems, our good buddy Blair Descaray is up there in the far right-hand corner. You can see Blair right there at Master System Courts. He's does anything from one-stop shopping from building courts to resurfacing, all sorts of good products, nets. If you need anything, see our buddy Blair at Master Systems. So
good stuff.
All right, third set. Here we go. Man, we ready? Well, let me ask you real quick. Now, Rafa, you would have benefited from probably having Craig's analytics, wouldn't you? No, Novak did. So what about you?
Well, I mean, Novak is early adopter, no, but I enjoy the information, the Pretorius. I enjoy saying his name because I get to roll the R's a little bit, like I roll my forehand, no? So Warren is very, very welcome on my team, no?
Right. Yeah, I'm sure that we're going to get Rafa involved with you at some point. So, all right, here we go. Warren P., Master P., first band you saw in concert.
It was in South Africa. I grew up in apartheid. We didn't see many bands coming out there. So it was actually when I got to Utah, and I think it was Sting.
Oh, Sting.
Police and B-52s.
Oh, wow. Yes.
At the D Event Center?
No, it was actually up in Park City.
Oh.
They used to have the old Park West.
Mm-hmm.
Where the Canyons is now. There used to be Park West, and then that became Wolf Mountain. But they used to have those concerts there, and it was there. It was while I was at Weber State, in fact, that I saw my first big concert, because up until then there was we didn't have there were sanctions in South Africa. You saw lots of live music,
sure,
but they're all local bands, and that no big name bands came to South Africa.
Interesting, because I thought at the D Event Center I saw a couple of bands coming through there that we saw Fleetwood Mac one time, Kansas, they came through.
Big names.
Yeah, big names. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, we had a good time. If you could hear a band in concert, I know you like music. What band would you like to hear in concert?
I've always been a U2 follower, and I've been to some amazing concerts with them. I think. Anything rock. Like I'm really intrigued with the Strokes.
Oh, I love them.
I watched them play, and I think they just won an Emmy, I think. So I like them. Any rock band. I like old rock. So yeah, I'd be down with going. Even Fleetwood Mac or any of the revival tours.
We enjoyed using U2 and Red Hot Chili Peppers in your promo post this week. Yeah.
They all could probably use some analytics, like how many times they strum the guitar, how many times Mick Jagger walks around like a chicken. You could probably analyze, the musicians on stage. That would be some good stuff, wouldn't it? Don't you think?
It would. Drive performance at the rock level at the top.
So what kind of music do you like to listen to? Are you a rock guy, jazz, zydeco, classicals, country and western, country or western, disco, rap, bluegrass, anything? Or you like anything and everything?
I'm not really a country person, but so I like rock. Like I have a Sirius radio. I've got it in my truck when driving down the highway with my Airstream on the back.
Yeah.
And I tend to listen to a lot of rock. Every now and again, I do like jazz also.
Yeah.
And I like the blues. So and I've even we've been to some amazing concerts in the park here in Park City. At Deer Valley, they have concerts and they've got some symphony. So I sort of like it all. But still, if I was going to listen to anything now, if pop anything in, it's going to be something probably rock based.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, the big question here. This is the tell-all. All right, so I don't know. You might have been in a band, play an instrument. We don't know, but we're going to see something serious about Warren and his masterpiece personality. Lead singer, lead guitarist, drummer, keyboards, bass guitarist, glockenspiel player like me. I'm a glockenspiel player. Where would you be in the lineup?
probably the Jewish harp, you know, the
Yes.
or a whistle, yeah. Would be something. Would be something with the tambourine.
Tambourine, yeah.
In the background.
Yes.
In the background.
I doubt he's a background guy. I think he's more like, probably like Bono.
Up
He's
front.
Probably, oh, yeah. I can see that with the sunglasses and all that kind. No?
No, not at all.
No.
All right. First paid gig. What was your first paid job?
Back in Joe
First
Boat,
paid
maybe.
job.
Yeah.
The first paid job was probably when I was about 15, and I worked at the race course, horse races, off course tote, at a place called Telebets. Where what we would do is we'd sit in a little cubicle, and people would phone in. They'd have an account, and they'd place their bets, and we'd have to mark down their bets, and then so it was taking horse racing bets when I was 14
This
and
is,
15.
folks, this is early
South Africa.
analog version
Yes.
of data analytics.
Right. Yes, he's already starting at age 15.
Tremendous.
Right.
Yep.
Favorite movie, TV shows, kind of like what do you like to watch in the Airstream?
I think I've always been a fan from when we were kids of any of the James Bond movies.
There we go. All right.
Early on, I used to like Sean Connery,
Yes.
Roger Moore, and all the.
Who's your favorite one?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite Bond?
I think it was Sean Connery. He was the best, I think, out of all of them. But any James Bond film is good. It's amazing when you do go watch some of the old James Bond films, how hokey they seem. You're like, man, when I watched it was the best movie ever. Even like GoldenEye, it was the best movie ever. But the special effects are now, compared to what they do now,
A little lacking.
So I think I like those. Also, I like the light-hearted movies like. The movies like Will Ferrell and Ben Stiller and like Owen Wilson, all of those kind of like stupid movies like
Talladega Nights.
Zoolander.
Yeah.
Zoolander.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wedding Crashes or like what's a race car?
Talladega Nights.
Yeah, that's a great one.
My
too,
Smoking Hot
The
Wife.
kind of movies. Yeah, the kind of movies that you watch and you go like, man, this was the most stupid movie I've ever watched. And then you go watch it for a second or third time, and then you just think, wow, that's one of my favorite movies. So I like those. And I think we also got through that whole binge watching, just watching series, which you like to do. I mentioned Walking Dead earlier.
Oh, yeah.
I love Walking Dead. I thought that was a great show. Sons of Anarchy.
Right.
West.
That was a good one. And then the Breaking Bad and
that's
Better Call
tremendous.
Saul. That's a good one. Did you guys ever see Westworld?
Yes.
No, I've heard good
Yeah.
things.
Westworld. Oh, yeah. I remember Westworld.
That was good. Really good. Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, I hear good things. That's winning all the awards
Comedy.
now.
Can you say that?
Yeah, won all the awards.
Can we say that? Can we say that on Facebook without getting kicked off?
SCHITTS.
It's really the double T and the
It's like
CH
like
that puts it
Schlitz
apart.
malt liquor beer.
Just like
It's not. It's not. We're putting an L.
That's right.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, like you go get Schlitt-faced.
Yeah, that's right.
Schlitt-faced.
I really want Alejandro Davidovich Fokina to watch Schitt's Creek. I think that would be great.
All right. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner? What do you like?
Breakfast.
Breakfast.
Brekkie, early mornings.
So are you a sunrise person as opposed to a sunset? Do you know?
I like them both. Okay, but I'm a morning person, so I like sunrise and quiet. Quiet time in the morning with a good coffee is great.
Yep.
But a sunset with a good beer or glass of wine.
Tremendous.
That's also fantastic. Yeah. Life is too short for bad coffee and bad wine.
Amen. And you get to enjoy both of these when you take these Airstream hike trips, right? With the dogs.
Oh my gosh, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
And
I'm really on the beer side. It's hazy IPAs.
Yes.
We travel all over just finding these microbreweries that make hazy IPAs.
We grew up in a similar time, and back then American beers were considered absolute trash, and now it's this amazing era in American craft beers.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, really good.
Now, speaking of food, we know we would be invited to the soiree. I always like to say the word soiree because, party sounds kind of like, but soiree, we're having a soiree. You're having a soiree at the Pretorius Casa or someplace, let's say, and there's 4 people, kind of like a Mount Rushmore. We know AJ and I will be there, and your wife, and maybe some family members. Who would you invite? It can be anybody in history. You can go all the way back to the, or maybe all the way forward and think of somebody that, it could be tennis, sports, doesn't matter. It can be. We've had some interesting guests at this dinner table.
Yeah.
Who'd you invite?
I think I would love to have a beer or something with Barack Obama.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, interesting. Yes.
I think he'd be a very, very interesting person to sit down with. Also, while we're talking about presidents and all that, I think it'd be very interesting. I think George Bush.
Yes.
I think I've seen some interviews with him lately. I think he's a really nice. He seems like a really nice guy. He seems like a guy that you'd want to sit down and so it's not partisan or anything. I'm just very interested in these people, and I think the stories those guys could tell would be amazing.
So you got George W. You got W, and you got Barack. Who else? A couple more.
Geez, on the early, on the early sports side, I mean, you always go back to like, tennis and all that. But I think I'd go back and I'd look at some of the soccer greats, like a guy like Bobby Charlton. He was a coach.
Yes.
So it'd be someone like him. I think I also, I like watching boxing.
Oh,
so
really?
I think I'd go back. I think that's a guy that would be fascinating would be someone like Muhammad Ali.
For sure, the sweet science.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what a communicator that guy is.
Mike Tyson. Yes.
Mike Tyson. I mean, he's a big guy. So I think I'd be more inclined to go somewhere outside of tennis, but definitely in sport, or presidents. Those would be the guys off the top of my head.
So we're having a nice IPA, sitting around the table.
Good list.
Hanging around. Would be having any? What would you be serving? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. What's the food at the Pretorius house for this soiree?
We would definitely be having a braai.
Braai.
There we go.
Braai in South Africa.
Yes.
That's like a South African barbecue.
Yeah.
So there'd definitely be meat. Meat involved now. But I have to say is that I'm not eating as much meat as I used to. But I'm still. I tell my wife that I'm an indirect vegetarian. I don't eat animals that eat other animals. So except if it's a fish. Okay, the fish is different. Okay, but I don't eat like lion or anything like that. But my youngest son is vegan. So we've been trying to start eating healthier. So what you would definitely, if you came to my house, you would definitely have something. If you were vegetarian or vegan, there'd be something there for you. But otherwise, a good burger. I think a good burger. 2019, before the pandemic hit, for me was the year of the burger. I went everywhere. I went all over the world. All the traveling and that. Was to find the best burger.
Ooh, interesting.
The best burger was in London.
Really? And
London,
was it beef or was it another animal like bison or something?
No, I think it was beef.
It was beef in London, yeah.
Yeah, it was in the country somewhere. It was near I'm going to forget the name of it now, but we were on a nice little pub, a little village pub.
Awesome.
Went in and it could have just been a lot of it was because of where you're at and you're doing the hiking, you're hungry, you go and have a good beer, the ambiance, the sitting outside, the beautiful English summer is just amazing, and then I had this burger and I'm going like, okay, this is the best burger I've had.
And naturally they have good beef and mutton and all that and lamb and all that in London. But I wondered if you had bison or some game meats, because I know that's a big thing where you live in Utah. Yeah,
a good bison burger. I mean, there are a couple of places up here. In fact, I'll take Craig there if he comes out there.
Oh yeah.
And there's a couple of places. Yeah, they've got some spectacular bison burgers. Yeah. So that's a staple almost at most of the places. Is a buffalo burger, bison burger.
So Andy, have you been to this place to eat a burger in England? Have you been there?
I mean, yeah, it's great. We've got a tradition of remarkable food in Scotland as well as
the haggis is good, right?
south.
Haggis.
Always.
There's always good haggis up there, but not. Do you have burgers up there in Scotland?
Always, mate.
Blood pudding? What about blood?
Blood pudding, yes, they love it. Haggis, blood, all kinds of.
Their table. We might not be making it up there to Scotland. Okay, East Coast, West Coast. Are you in East Coast in the United States? West Coast.
West.
Okay, so what part of like Washington or all the way down to San Diego? Where on the West Coast are you thinking?
We've been all over. Like we also love Mexico.
Oh,
yeah, sure.
So spent a lot of time in Mexico on the West Coast. We've also been East Coast because we scuba dive. So we've done, we spent a lot of time in the East Coast at Cozumel, in Playa del Carmen, Tulum. But on the West Coast, Puerto Vallarta, Mazatlan, Cabo.
Yeah.
And then going further up, I mean, every northern Cal. So in the Paso Robles district, San Luis Obispo up there is beautiful. And then we've taken the airstream up to up the Portland coast. The Portland coast in summer, if it's not raining, is probably one of the best places to go. The beaches are wide. You're allowed to have dogs on the beach. We've got two dogs.
Adorable little ones you have, yeah.
Yeah, we take them everywhere, and they go on the beach over there. It's great. So up there, and then we usually do the drive all the way down, Portland, go to Hood River. We've got some friends up there, and then come all the way down. So West Coast for sure, but the northern Cal, the beaches and all that, we love it up there.
Yeah.
But if I live anywhere, it's going to be, if I spend more time anywhere, it's definitely going to be in Mexico. We have a family place in San Miguel de Allende.
Allende in the hills,
yeah, which is south of you guys. I mean, it's south of. I think we fly into Leon.
Yes,
and
go across.
Then go from there.
Yeah. I thought it might be Tijuana. I thought he might say, the West Coast
border, San Diego kind of.
That's Tijuana. I mean, that's on the West Coast. You didn't spend much time there, probably.
No, not a whole lot of time.
Right. All right. Mountains or beach?
A bit of both, but I love the mountains. Where we live, especially. I mean, we're right in the mountains. So I think it's not a. I think because we live in the mountains and we're up, doing all the hiking and all of that. I think that then you go like, hey, I need to get down to the beach. And when we're at the beach, probably if I'd be missing the mountains, but I've been pretty much, for most of my life, I've been in the mountains. So.
Favorite season? Are you a summer guy? Spring? Winter? Spring.
Right now.
Spring.
Right now?
Yeah. And why is because I know that even though it's a mud season and it's spring, and my wife says, no, it's just, it's mud season. The dogs come in all the time. They always go, bring tracking mud in. Then it snows and it's the promise of summer. So I do like the summer. But it's just knowing that, hey, you know what? We're not going to be. The cabin fever is done. Right. The worst time for me is being up here in the snow at the end of January, where it's really cold, and that's usually when I take trips. Usually, luckily with tennis and that's when some of the bigger events are happening, and then I'm in summer. So, but this year was a long winter. It was, yeah. And I think it's going to be a long winter next winter also, because I don't think that we're still not traveling. We're still not going to be traveling as much, but it's getting better. I've had both vaccines, so I think I'm on the road to getting back to normal.
Very good.
Favorite holiday? What's your favorite holiday?
Thanksgiving.
Oh,
no doubt about it. Only because there's no commercialism like with giving gifts and all of that. It's like it gets out of, even now Valentine's Day, everyone's giving each other gifts and they expect gifts. And at Thanksgiving, I think what's the best holiday, because you sit down your Thursday, everyone is off. In the US, people work like crazy. I mean, everyone's working, 355 days a year. They only take off Christmas, New Year Day, and Thanksgiving. And the nice thing about Thanksgiving is you're off on Thursday. You don't have to worry about anyone else being around, and you get the next day.
Yeah,
right. Typically
the Friday. So for me, it's Thanksgiving, hands down.
All right, we're going to head to the third set of the third set. Right?
The end.
Now we're coming back to some tennis questions. Indoor tennis or outdoor tennis?
Indoor.
Indoor, really? At high altitude, like up in Park City?
Yeah, indoor, and there's a reason for that also. Is that when I was younger, playing at high altitude, and that I took a lot of damage. I fight the whole thing with skin cancer. So I've had some, I'm reaping the rewards now of all those days and not wearing sunscreen and all of that. So now I play, if I'm going to play, it's like, I'll get called up here to go play outside, and that very rare that I play outside. If I do, it's going to be early in the morning. Otherwise, I play inside.
Yeah. What's your favorite tournament? You've probably been to a lot of them, or maybe all the big ones.
Wimbledon.
Interesting.
The most pure.
How come?
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity.
Just the most amazing facility, and so I like it. It's smaller. It's more, it's more intimate. And I love the U.S. Open because with the projects that I do with the USTA, we go every year. I work with Dave Ramos. There's a great bunch of guys that I work with over there, and we're on the court, so we film every year. We're on all the stadium courts, and we're filming with we do film with these very high end cameras, and it's just a great event. So I love it there, but it's hard work, and we're there for a couple of weeks, but it's a big event. So, yep. But a second would be the U.S. Open.
Yep. Do you like to watch tennis on TV? Can you let your mind relax, or do you have to analyze? Like we were asking O'Shaughnessy, he has to watch tennis, and he still thinks about what's going on.
And he watches on 2X.
He watches it really fast. Yeah. Do you like to watch tennis on TV just to relax and kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watch. I like watching matches. I don't get caught up. I think I get caught up. I will pick up if a player is doing something wrong, and that I'm going like, oh my gosh, it's like what are his coaches telling him? Yeah. On the strategy, but I probably don't get into it as much as what Craig does.
Yeah, he said it was hard for him to tune out the business side of tennis and just kind of relax and watch. I didn't know if he had a notepad going, okay, I need to talk with this such and so person, because I can help with them. There's opportunities all around because really what you do is fairly still in its infancy, I would think. I mean, they know who you are probably. I'm sure of that, but some people go by feel, I would say, like you said, Boris, he kind of did by feel, and he wasn't thinking about analytics. So there's still probably opportunities out on the circuit for you. Is that correct?
Yeah, sure. I definitely think so. And again, it's like, when you offer a service and there's other people offering the service, sure. It's not like once you start working with a player, you always work with a player. It's kind of like you look at it now that, player plays with Wilson for a year and then they switch and they're playing with Head.
Sure.
It's kind of like this. So I think there's always opportunity. I'm more intrigued though is that I find that the pros, the developing a business model around the pros it's much more fickle. It's better to work with a college team for a season, and it's better at an event that we're at, or working with the USTA. That's an ongoing project. So.
Who's your favorite player? Who's your favorite tennis player? It could be now or forever.
Nadal.
Nadal, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that he's just. I had to say that for AJ.
I appreciate it. You looked right at me like, oh, I love it. Great answer.
I like he's humble.
Yeah.
What I like is that he loses whenever he loses a match, there's no excuses. He's always got something. He'll say, yes, maybe I played bad. I didn't play well that day. I need to go work harder. But the guy on the other side of the court, he played very well. Yeah. Let's not take anything away from him. And I think Federer is also a close second. You have to love him. Like a week ago, Djokovic lost. Well, this week, he lost, and it's disappointing when he comes up and he'll just say, "Well, that was the worst I've ever played in my whole life." Yeah, it makes him look bad.
Right.
And he could have very easily added a few more words and just said, "Hey, you know what?
Yeah,
I didn't play well. I played badly."
And a bit about Dan Evans played tremendously, or the way he attacked took
amazing.
me. Yeah.
let's not take anything away from him, because and he would have come across, everyone would have said, wow, yeah, he definitely didn't play well, but what a great guy. But he didn't do that.
Yeah, that's why he's never going to be the beloved Roger Federer or Rafael Nadal. I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about Novak, but I think that's why people like Roger and people like Rafa, because typically speaking, they say the right things. Whether they want to go home and kick the dog or whatever, afterwards, but you don't see that side of them. You don't see them break rackets. You don't see them. They're just. It's just. He's not the people's champion, and I don't think he will ever be. So. But, good point. All right, now we're rounding the corner here. We got just a couple more questions here. All right, what sport would you have played if it wasn't tennis? If it wasn't a great game, what sport did you really like playing, maybe growing up in Johannesburg?
Pickleball.
We never had that one. Right. That was big down in Johannesburg back in the 70s, wasn't it?
I think I played soccer. So I always loved soccer. So I probably played, and I played cricket. So I like cricket, but the problem with it is it takes too long. Even a short game takes a full day.
Yep.
So I'd probably say if I wasn't playing tennis, then when I was younger, I'd be playing soccer.
Mm-hmm. So did you watch cricket on TV? Do you get into it, the international play? Do you watch all that stuff?
Yeah, it's difficult to do it when you're over here because of time zones and all that. But when I go back to South Africa, because I've got offices over there, that's where we outsource. I've got employees and all of that there. So when I do get to go, I usually take about 2 trips a year. And one of the trips is during cricket season. So then everyone is in there. There's test matches. Our offices are very close to the Wanderers. So I've got some great business partners over there, and they always arrange some good trip, walk across the road in a suite, go sit and watch cricket. So watching cricket live is good. And a test match, lasts like 3 days.
Right.
But when you're in a country, I'm sure it's the same in Australia and England, in South Africa, even if you're going to work, there's always a TV going, and you can always listen to something on the radio and all that. It's a saga. It's slowly building and building, and it's a saga, and so I like it. But over here, there's no ways that you can. It's not the same.
Yeah.
So
baseball's not the same as cricket. I got to go to the MCG a couple of years ago. I was actually watched a cricket game. I did not know what was going on, but I had a great time, and it was just their league stuff. So it was like 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours. They shortened the format. I don't know how many bowls it was, 200 bowls or something like that. I think.
They play limited overs.
That's it. That's it.
Limited overs. That's a limited pitches. They'll limit the pitch count.
Yeah, so it was pretty fun, though. I mean, I sat there. I go, we're supposed to cheer. All right. Then what do we cheer for? All right. Last 2 questions. All right. What would you have been doing if you wouldn't be involved in sports? What would you be doing right now?
If I wasn't involved in sports,
right? Yeah, because you're involved heavily in sports.
I would probably be doing something like I would think I'd be doing something in banking, maybe, because I did have economics and finance major. So probably something in business, but probably something I probably would have been a banker.
Yeah, I can see your passion for workflow and accuracy. I can see that coming through as a banker.
Or engineering.
Engineering.
Dartfish, on one of the great projects that I got to do with Dartfish. Dartfish, in fact, for efficiency in movement. We did work with the Navy SEALs. We did work with nuclear facility evacuation training. Anytime that there's movement that can be improved on, we would do that. And one of the things I got to do in Mexico was efficiency training on the work line, where there's a manual. These guys were like making engine blocks, and a certain part of it was that to get this engine block comes out on a conveyor belt. They get this piece, they've got to clean it, and they've got to get some pieces off and all that. And a lot of the workers there, not. They're very smart, but they're not. They've got they don't even have high school education. So what they want to do is they want to make them more efficient. So what we do is we film a guy who's putting all these tools in the right place and all that, and he's cranking out 5 units an hour. And one of the new guys, they'll tell him, they'll say, hey, how would you like to earn twice as much as you earn now? And the guy goes, yeah,
yes,
sure.
please.
So watch you and watch the guy who's making 5 more. And they look, and it's like where they're placing their tools and all that. So I thought that an interesting job would be one of those efficiency experts,
right.
where a person goes in as a consultant to somewhere where there's a workflow and tries to like ascertain where there's weaknesses in the workflow so you can create efficiencies. So I think I would have liked to look into that. That's an engineering kind of degree.
That's interesting.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
So maybe when I'm done with tennis analytics, I'll go do that.
I like it.
All right, last question. This is the biggie. All right, now if you were the commissioner of the great game, let's say, and you could make a change or changes if you'd like to, or maybe you wouldn't. What would you see that Warren Pretorius would like to add, take away, or just leave the game the way it is? And it can be any game, any part of the game.
I like watching college tennis now, where they don't play, where there's no let.
Yes.
You know, where they play. I think it adds a level of excitement, intrigue. Okay. I also don't mind the no ads scoring. I'm not a fan of doing a shortened format of the sets. So I'd be more apt to say, hey, you know what? Let's keep the scoring the way keep the length of the match the way it is, but go ahead and make some changes on the let rule and on the and on the no ad. I think that makes sense. But otherwise, I wouldn't. I don't think I would change anything.
Too major?
Anything else?
Davis Cup or anything like that? Just scoring.
Yeah, okay. On Davis Cup, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think that I like the new format. I think I like the way of having it be an event where everyone goes in. I think it sort of levels the playing field, unless you're the host nation.
Yeah.
But I think that for the spectators' point of view, for me, I go, wow, it's like another Grand Slam. Mm-hmm. I just get to turn on the TV and I get to watch a lot of great tennis, and it's a team format. Frankly, it's like, unless I was working with the Davis Cup team, because I worked with Tennis Canada and Davis Cup and with the US. Unless I was working with them, I probably didn't watch Davis Cup, because they're playing it all over the place. I didn't even know what the schedule was. So now you've got this week of. It's like an event. So definitely, I like the format. I think that the purists would argue against it, but I think we're going to give it a few years and see where it goes. With the women, the women are doing the same thing.
Billie Jean King Cup, yeah.
Fed Cup, yeah. So I like it.
Yeah, we can get you in touch with the South African Davis Cup coach.
That's right. You guys can speak some.
I already have been.
Yeah, you have been.
Oh, Curtis van Rensburg.
Yeah.
How do you roll? I can't roll.
I enjoy saying his name, and
Yes.
I hope I'm doing it justice. Christo van
Van
Rensburg.
Yeah. He's another good guy.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time with him. He's very interested in analytics. When he was made the Davis Cup coach, I reached out to him and I just said, hey, if you need any help, it's like, anything I can do, it's like I'll help you out. You don't have to. He doesn't have to pay anything out, for at least not in the beginning. But yeah, he's a great guy. He's going to be a hell of a coach.
He's awesome. We spent a whole weekend with him down in Austin in November, I think it was.
Yep.
And then we had him on the show back in January. Remarkable fella, and I'm happy you two are in touch. Yeah.
Well, Warren, it's been a great hour and 43 minutes, and we've taken a lot of your time.
Tremendous,
yeah, I'm looking
Warren.
up here on the screen right now. It says 143. We certainly appreciate your time. Tell everybody one more time how they can get in touch with you.
Just go to tennisanalytics.net.
Easy.
Not .com, tennisanalytics.net, and then you can learn more about what we do, and I appreciate it.
There's a contact page. There's a contact, I'm sure, button, and that goes right to you, or somebody that they can get in touch with right there.
Yeah. All the contact information is there.
So if any coaches, I mean, because I was thinking, boy, you'd be great to have at my club. I think you'd be a hit on the amateur, what'd you call
athletes.
it? The athlete side. Yes.
Club athletes.
Yes, club athletes. I think you'd be fascinating because I know that there'd be a bunch of people that would be loved to. I mean, we might have you with USPTA Texas, and talking to at a convention, and then maybe have you come down to Dallas, and then I could just see this in when COVID relaxes.
Of course,
we could see you down here with a lot of amateurs. There's a lot of tennis. I think there's a huge market for something like what you're doing to be able to.
Maybe what we could do is have the two of you play each other, and we'll.
Oh, that would be
awesome. We would break the machine because there'd be too many errors. You hadn't seen that many errors. It wouldn't even be 4 shots.
I'd want outdoors clay. He would want indoors hard. We'd
right here.
It would go all over. Yeah,
right behind us. That's right. We're indoors right now. That's my surface. I'm like you. I like indoors.
Yeah.
We'll flip a coin.
Right. I love it. Or do 8 matches, which is what you need for the data, right?
Yes, that's a good idea.
That's good. Yeah.
So it might take a little long to get those 8 matches played.
It would take a while. Well, Warren, you are just so.
Cricket.
Yeah, I like it. Warren, you're tremendous. What a fantastic guest and a neat conversation. I feel like I learned a lot too. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Real quickly, who's your favorite Bond girl? Just last question here. Favorite Bond girl of all time? You like the old one? Like, do you go way back to Ursula Andress or Claudine Auger and Thunderball?
Oh, nice.
Yes. Or do you go forward like Vesper Lynn, in Casino Royale, or a lot of vagina in Austin Powers?
Craig, why do you have to pick one?
I'm going to put you on the spot. I want you, because you're an analyzer. You analyze everything. So there's got to be a hierarchy.
I don't even know the names.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, it's like they're all good. That's why I go back and watch those movies over and over and over.
I love James Bond. I have a couple of them saved on the DVR, and I just sit there and fall asleep and watch. I know every scene, but it's just fascinating to watch Sean Connery.
The other one before you go is Austin Powers.
Oh yes,
right. Speaking of James Bond,
he's a lot of fun. Mike Myers, that's a classic. I wish they'd come out with the 4th one. Yeah, because he hasn't done. They said he's going to come out with one, but
he really is.
Yeah, supposedly, but that's been 15 years, 20 years. The last one that they've done, but
it took a lot of guts to do a send up and to make fun of James Bond. I'm proud he did it. Yeah. That was awesome.
Right. Freaking cold in here, Mr. Bigglesworth. No, I like that too. So, Warren, I'm gonna bring you a hat here in a couple of weeks. So look for me to send a little message.
Hey, we've got some purple at the net ones on order. So I think Warren would be a great candidate for the purple.
Purple with a little gray on the side. So there's some Weber State colors. So I'll bring you one. They should be ready in the next week or so because I talked to our supplier Friday. So he's working on it right now. So I'll hand deliver that and we'll go have a burger somewhere.
I love it.
Nice.
All right.
Warren, cheers. Have a great night. And I know you're a morning person, so enjoy getting to bed at a good time. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah. Have a good one.
We'll have to have you back. We'll have you back for sure at some point in the future. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Look forward to it.
Thanks, Warren.
Thanks, Warren. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
What a great podcast, huh?
Fantastic.
Oh,
buddy.
Man.
Yeah.
He was awesome. Warren didn't disappoint. Master P did not disappoint, did he?
Warren G, Master P, rock fan, and so proud we had him on the show. Thank you for joining us, everybody.
Yep. So our little James Scott Campbell, let's take us out from here, right?
Yes.
See if we can get him. All right, thanks for listening to Season 1, Episode 83. That was 83. Can you believe that?
Not bad, buddy.
Boy, that went by really fast, didn't it?
It did. He's a fantastic guest.
Join us next week as we'll be talking with noted ATP Tour veteran Hans Hans Hotch.
Hotch.
Not Hotch.
I'm sure it's Hach also. In German, it's Hach. In Spanish, it's Hotch.
Right.
And his other last name is Verdugo, and he plays Davis Cup for the Mexican team. So we are excited to talk to him about doubles, singles, Davis Cup, and the ATP Tour.
So he fits right in with this. You're AJC, I'm CB1. He's HHB. And also join us on Wednesday night. We do this kind of thing called tennis shorts, don't we?
I can't wait. Wednesday night.
Yep. And we do 2 legs of the short. So we always have. We have some guests. Last week we had Bill Patton, and this week do we have any guests this week?
Just you and me, and we get to find out what's inside Craig Bell's tennis shorts,
which is a big bag of nothing.
Sometimes we'll talk topical stuff like the WTA and ATP seasons. We'll talk Fed Cup or Billie Jean King Cup a little, which just ended. A couple of our friends were in that. And we get to grill each other a little and get to know each other a bit.
We chill and grill. It's fun, kind of fun sometimes right there. And lastly, be sure to tell a friend or friends we like your peeps. Hopefully they'll like us too, right?
What he's trying to say is hit the like button. It helps us out if you subscribe, follow, and share.
Right.
We have fun, and we hope your friends will have fun with us.
Yeah, so you become a nethead, right? And we give away sometimes some lids to our loyal listeners. So, all right, everybody, that's the tennis news as it seems to us. Good night from Dallas, Texas, everybody.
Good night, everybody.